I first of all just want to take this opportunity to thank my own department officials in the Department of Education and indeed in the Department of Public Expenditure and indeed Ministers McGrath and Donoghue for their support in relation to special education, which is a huge priority for this government. The Taoiseach appointed me to this role. This is now my third budget as the very first Minister for Special Education, and in that time I have increased the budget by 40%, which is significant, and this budget in particular is significant. It is €2.6 billion, which is a 10% increase on last year, and in fact it's 27% of the entire departmental budget. Last year it was 25%, so I think that shows an acknowledgement from the government how important special education is. We have increased the amount of SNAs by 1,194 this year. We've increased the amount of special education teachers by 686, and they will go a long way to supporting children with additional needs, both in mainstream, in special classes and indeed in special schools. And in the last three budgets, I have increased the amount of SNAs by 3,300 and the amount of special education teachers by 2,000. One opportunity that I wanted to seek out this year was to try to establish some sort of incremental funding or some sort of one-off funding for the National Council for Special Education, and we managed to achieve that in the funding of €13 million. The National Council for Special Education hadn't received any extra funding since 2003. Now John Carney, who is the CEO of the National Council for Special Education, will be in a position to employ 161 staff. 109 of those will be CNOs. He will also have 40 staff dedicated to rolling out the ISL scheme, which is under the ISL Act. He will also be able to employ other administrative staff that has been badly needed over the decades. You know, it's really important that visible and effective presence is felt on the ground. The CNOs are the first point of contact for many parents and families, and it's really, really vital that that funding wasn't just given and increased, but also that it will be implemented in a meaningful way. And I've every faith in John Carney that he will do it. It's so important that the most vulnerable in society, which are our children with additional needs, are looked after, and that they have access to an appropriate placement, be it in a mainstream, in a special class, or indeed in a special school. And I really hope that the measures that we've brought in today will help to achieve that. We will have 370 special classes opening next year. That will accommodate 2,000 children. We will also have 250 special school places. That's across 42 special schools. So there is demonstrable ongoing work going on. We also have the emergency legislation that was brought in earlier this summer by Minister Foley and myself, which will help escalate the amount of special classes that are being opened. And it has been pointed out, and it's right to point out, that it's not just about opening special classes, it's also making sure that they're adequately resourced and that they have the supports that they need, whether it's grants or whether it's staffing in terms of SNAs or in terms of SETs. And we will absolutely make sure that it is done. We now have over 20,000 SNAs in this country and over 19,000 special education teachers, which will go a really long way to supporting our children. We've also increased the assistive technology scheme by 2 million. That's an increase of 60%. We have also have some funding going to the special schools under the free book school scheme. About $1 million of that will go to special schools, which will help our most vulnerable children. So overall, it is a budget that I would commend to the House. There's also some funding around the National Education Psychological Service as well. We'll have 54 extra staff in relation to that as well. And lastly, Chair, just around summer provision, as Minister Foley has alluded to, it is something that we wanted announced at the time of the budget, purely because it allows schools and staff the certainty for planning, that they can get their staff and know that they can hold this. The funding is there to do it. There will be 40 million in total for schools to hold summer programmes in 2023. Thank you.